Hi, this is Chad Wien, Superintendent of Mad River Local Schools. Joining me today for our video blog is Adrian Lewis and Elizabeth Friel, and today we're going to talk about human trafficking. Recently we did a video on opioid use, things that we need to look at and be cautious of for students and our families in our community. Another hot topic, especially around this area specifically, us being the crossroads of America with I-70 and I-75, and being a state that actually has the most truck stops in the nation, is human trafficking. It's a hidden crime. It's not something that people are very aware of, but it's happening around us. And I think it's something that's very important for our community to be aware of as we move forward and try to address all the needs that we have in Mad River Local Schools. So Adrian, can you talk to me a little bit about what human trafficking is? Because I think people don't really truly understand that definition of what that truly means and what the effect is on the state of Ohio.
Okay. Well, human trafficking is exploiting another person for a profit, so the victim receives little or no pay for their actions, and what we mostly focus on is sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Sex trafficking for both adults and minors, and labor trafficking that affects everyone. So sex trafficking is exploiting another person sexually in order to gain a profit, and labor trafficking is exploiting someone through agricultural work, factory work, things along those lines, cleaning, nannies, and they receive little or no pay and have very harsh working conditions. And so what that means for Ohio is minor sex trafficking and adult sex trafficking is something that is very focused on, but labor trafficking happens here as well. And as within Ohio, it is an issue because we do have so many truck stops, and truck stops are a hub for trafficking in a way that people can be transported elsewhere, as well as it can happen in the truck stop itself. And there's things that we can do as school districts and as parents in order to prevent trafficking.
Yeah, and I can tell you, one concern that I have, and this is both being the superintendent of a school district that we educate 4,000 students every single day. Also, just the fact that my daughters are in middle school, they're 7th graders, 12 years old. It seems like that's kind of the age that you see some of this starting to take place, and you hear the term groomers, and you think about how these people come in and infiltrate buildings and cities and what this even looks like. So can you talk to us a little bit about what this would look like in a school? What are some things that our parents and our community needs to be aware of as far as recognizing the signs of human trafficking, ways that they can address some of these things? Because again, our goal is to make sure that we have a safe community, that we're doing everything we can to make sure our children are aware that they're not participating in these type of things. So what are some things that you can talk to us about as far as community and the things that we need for awareness?
So when you're talking about how that is the age that you hear about this, 12 to 13 is the average age that someone is first trafficked. So it is important that we talk about that. Mm-hmm. And for what we're talking about, grooming purposes, so a trafficker will approach a victim that they think is vulnerable, and we can talk about those vulnerabilities in a minute, and they often do it as a older significant other or a best friend figure, and sometimes it's even like a mother or fatherly figure. And so they understand what the needs of the victims are because they monitor for them a long period of time. Because for traffickers, for people who sell drugs, mm-hmm. You sell a drug once and you get benefits from that once. For people who sell trafficking victims, you have one person that's continuously giving you a benefit. So they try to invest in that. And so they take a long time and process in order to figure out what the vulnerabilities of the victim are and then figure out how to best exploit them. Okay. So things like the older significant other will approach them and say, "Hi, you seem really nice, would you like to hang out sometime?" And that person is so excited that someone who's older is interested in them. And so even though sometimes these alarms go off in their head, they're just very excited that they have that attention. And so once they have that relationship, it then might be the case that the boyfriend or girlfriend will say, "Okay, I've given you all these nice things, these jewelries, all this attention, I've provided you food and house and shelter, now you have to pay me back. And so if you do this for me tonight, it'll be okay, and you'll pay that back, and everything, then we'll be fine." And so that person will do a commercial sex act, and the boyfriend or girlfriend will make money from it. So actually we do know that within the Miami Valley region that it is most common for trafficking situations to be a boyfriend-girlfriend situation where the pimp has one trafficker. So that is what's most common in the Miami Valley.
Okay. And just things that, Elizabeth, that you've recognizing signs, you know, I know that we had talked about, like, a lot of times tattoos and things like that are things that we need to make sure that we're aware of. You know, tattoos are pretty prevalent in our society now. It's nothing for a parent to have a tattoo, but there are some signs as far as tattooing and other things that we can recognize with students that may be going down a path, or family or community members. So what are some of those signs that you've noticed that are more prevalent now than maybe in the past?
Well, certainly I think some of the stories shared with us by survivors who are willing to share some of their experiences. If we talk about the tattoo, part of what they've shared is that the neck tattoo is a visible place for other people to be able to see that this person belongs to this trafficker or this pimp. But our culture has also accepted and it's become more common or even more desirable for a lot of us to have tattoos. And so neck tattoos are also becoming more common, whether they're not necessarily a sign of someone being trafficked anymore. And so that muddies the picture a little bit. But I think that it comes back down to, and this is so basic, for parents and educators and stakeholders to engage in a dialogue with our kids, because those who are vulnerable to being trafficked are going to be approached and are going to enter dialogue with traffickers. And so the best thing that we can do that is within our capability is to keep that dialogue open with our children, whether they're our students or our own children, our neighbors' children. And if we're keeping that dialogue open, I think that for me, one of the strongest things that we can do is to encourage our children to have the backs of each other. And that when you see something, say something. That's become a very overused cliche at times, but it's true. Find that safe person. If you see something that doesn't feel right or is different, or we're looking at some of the AD had gone ahead and referenced when you see someone dressing differently or acting differently or looking differently, say something. Talk about it. Enter that dialogue with our kids.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most critical thing, and the thing that we forget about oftentimes is we have to talk to our kids and have those good conversations and not be afraid to have those conversations.
And these aren't easy conversations to have, so we have to find the courage within ourselves to do that as well, and have a comfort level with it so that we know a little bit of what we're talking. We don't have to know it all. We don't have to be experts in it, but we have to be willing to enter into that conversation, because typically the kids aren't going to initiate it with us. We need to find the courage to do that.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the group Abolition Ohio, the nonprofit group that puts on a lot of professional development, has a lot of resources for schools, for families. What does Abolition Ohio mean, and what can that do for our community?
Abolition Ohio is the Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition for the Miami Valley region. So that covers 5 counties in this region. It's dark green: Montgomery, Miami, and Preble. Yes. And so what we do for this program, it's called the School Trafficking Outreach Program. So we call it STOP. And we have these materials that we take into schools, and so it's a curriculum that teachers can use. We also have guidelines for basically how to also put this in your classroom, how to create a club on your campus, any kind of organization or group working with children. That is how you can implement those, and that's something that we did with the Attorney General Human Trafficking Commission. Okay. And then we also have these 2 books, Slavery in the Land of the Free and The Slave Across the Street, and these are both written by Teresa Flores, who is a known survivor of human trafficking. And so these can be used by anyone within the school as well as the students. We hope to put these materials in libraries in each middle school and high school in the region, so that's our goal. And we also offer trainings for school administration, teachers, as well as we can do trainings for parents if the school is allowing us to come in and make those trainings for those parents. And we also work with the New Abolitionist Movement, which is the anti-human trafficking club at UD. which is a student-led group,
Mhm.
and they can make near peer presentations with the students, so they can actually come into the classroom, and that way it's a good connection for the students because they are closer in age, and it's not just a teacher talking about it. It can be supplementary to that, and we've seen that it has really great results
Good.
when we've made these presentations with the new abolitionist movement.
Yeah, well, we appreciate our partnership that we're developing. We're so excited about where this can go and just the awareness that we can provide for our community, our families, and our students. I appreciate you bringing materials over that we'll be able to put in our middle school. We have materials that Elizabeth, you have brought over that we put into our high school, and just knowing that the more awareness we can provide, the better off we're going to be in order to combat human trafficking. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we appreciate your time. So thank you,
Thank you.
Elizabeth, and thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.